I'm here with Armond Dantino, VP of Sales at Maculogics. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Well, as Mozart is so interested in ophthalmic innovation here at this ESCRS
Sure he was, yeah.
I'd like to ask you about Maculogics and why that might be providing tools that are revolutionary in ophthalmology.
Yeah, and I think Mozart would probably, as brilliant as he was, would have invented this thing probably way back when, but because we're the only fully automated dark adaptometer commercially available.
Yeah.
So what we do is detect AMD up to 3 years earlier than we were able to see it structurally than before. So we're a functional test that the functional changes occur earlier and then the structural changes. So it's pretty exciting.
Well, that's very interesting because, that would, I guess, help improve eventually therapies for the dry eye sphere as well.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much now for wet AMD, but the dry is also critical, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. If we're seeing, and only treatments available for intermediate or late stage AMD or wet AMD, we want to identify early and hopefully the therapies will come, the therapeutics would come that we can address earlier and save sight. And that's the whole goal of our company, is to provide eye care providers equipment to help save sight.
So Armond, take me through a little bit. I mean, OCT is doing diagnostics in this market. How is what Maculogics doing different and truly innovative?
Yeah, so OCT, fundus, photos, they're structural, right?
Yeah.
So, and then glaucoma, structure changes occur first and then function, where in AMD, the functional changes occur first, then you'll see them structurally. So that's where we're a functional test. So we were able to detect the functional deficits with the rod intercepts, with your rods, which would give us indications that AMD is present, and therefore the functionality will be decreased.
That's great. And are you aware of whether therapies on the horizon will be able to address dry AMD in the near future?
Yeah, we've been approached by certain companies. We know when we're involved in studies out there right now, including the MacuStar study, which is a big study in the EU. We know that is the next phase to look at early therapeutics.
Sure.
In the early stages.
And also, I mean, even with current treatments for later stage AMD, I would imagine that your technology still is useful for early detection for those as well. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it all depends on your mindset, right? Do you want to know that you have a disease so you can take certain actions and take ownership of your health, right? So if you know you have AMD early, you can change your lifestyle. You can stop smoking, you can exercise, you can eat a good Mediterranean diet with green vegetables. If you believe in nutraceuticals and antioxidants, you take those as well.
Sure.
So if you can maybe push off the progression of the disease as much as you can, it gives you better outcomes later on in life.
That's great. And tell us a little bit about your company too. I mean, is it progressing from where you were some years ago? I remember meeting some of your directors back at Arvo in Fort Lauderdale, which was some years ago.
Yeah.
How have you been doing since then?
We're in a massive growth, right? So we're growing over 300% in revenue each year. As little as January of 17, we were a company of 11. Now we're well over 60 employees, so within 2 years. We're still expanding. We've outgrown our office. We're moving into a new office in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And we're also have domestic sales in the US, but now we've opened up European sales, and now we're looking at Asia Pacific as well. So it's lights out, total growth. So we're really excited.
That's great. And maybe just a thought about Asia Pacific too, our home base.
Yeah.
Do you see the future of therapies for the posterior segment to be also bright in Asia?
No, yeah, no question. I mean, obviously, I think it's going to be important globally everywhere. AMD is just a massively growing disease.
Yeah.
It's 200 million, by 2020.
Right.
So it's just going to continue to proliferate. So it'll be important all over.
To some extent, maybe it's also, I mean, you know, we have development across the world, but with that sometimes comes unhealthy lifestyles. So things like diabetic retinopathy come into play.
Sure.
You know, growth is good, but to the detriment of health, and I guess instrumentation is needed to support health, even as humans become perhaps a bit unhealthier.
Yeah, absolutely. And we, as a growing company, Maculogics, are obviously focused on AMD, and we want to get that, but we're also looking at other disease states as well. So we're absolutely a growth company.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Armond, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
Mozart.
I appreciate it. Yeah.